when one of the biggest companies in the world changes its name to Meta? I guess we should pay attention, right? So I set off to try and understand a bit more about this metaverse from the view of an investor. So in my sharing today, I'll try and help you understand the concept of the metaverse, what are the hype points, but also some sobering facts that helps bring some balance to the whole narrative. And then finally, some considerations if you're still interested as an investor. Hey guys, it's Sunmin and welcome back to Your Money Game, the show where we'll save, invest, and feel better about money. So let's start with the definition. And the truth is, if you read 10 articles about what the metaverse is, you will likely find a lot of variations. So this is probably just one more of them, but what I'm trying to do is simplify it in my own head in a simple sentence. So from all I've read, the metaverse can be defined as virtual worlds where people can share experiences with a system of ownership as well as value exchange. And here's why. The first two components, where you have virtual worlds and people sharing experiences together, that already exists. Pick up Fortnite or any other of these MMO type games and you already have that. And it's also true that in some cases there is some kind of economic unit. For example, in Fortnite you have V-Bucks and you can buy items within that game. But the problem is, within the current system, whatever value or item that you buy is locked within that one world. So the metaverse is promising that because of recognizing you as the individual owner of that virtual item, you are able to take it and move it between worlds through that system of value exchange. And it's an exciting new frontier that's powered by a couple of different themes. One is the shifting power back to the community rather than just a corporation. Because think of it, if you are a user of Instagram, whenever you are creating content on their platform, which really just helps them, they monetize your data and your engagement. You, on the other hand, get very little or almost nothing back from doing all these things on those platforms. Another major theme is the evolution of our digital identities. So right now, it's quite simple for most of us, where we will use a social profile of some sort, or maybe even pictures on our Facebook pages that kind of show off the world who we are. But it's becoming increasingly more complex how we display status, as well as identify with certain groups or communities in the world. And you're already beginning to see some of this play out in this whole exciting space of NFTs, or non-fungible tokens. Now, I did a bit of a video on that, so you can check that out if you want to know more about that space. There are many more themes that are underlying this, and also much more industries than you realize that are helping to power along this whole promise of the metaverse. I found John Radoff's work quite helpful to understand the many layers that are involved. So I've attached a couple of links down in the description, so do check it out if you really want to dig much deeper into the different industries. So now that we've got the basic definition out of the way, why is there such a big hype? Now, the obvious one is that big money is pouring in. You've got Facebook or Meta pouring in $10 billion in this year alone into the concept of the metaverse. You've got Microsoft experimenting with its Teams app. And then you have already existing huge worlds in the gaming space. For example, you've got Roblox. And like I said earlier, some of the core ingredients of the metaverse are already in play. You've got shared virtual experiences in Fortnite. For example, if you saw the Travis Scott or Ariana Grande live concerts, they were viewed by 10 to 12 million people live. Roblox, that I mentioned earlier, has 43 million daily active users and an in-game currency called Robux. And the hype is really seen, especially in some of the crypto projects that are involved with the metaverse. The biggest so far is Decentraland, which is built on the Ethereum network, but it has its own token called Mana, and the market capitalization of all the Mana there is roughly about $4.5 billion. Another example of that is The Sandbox, which is also built on Ethereum, but it uses its own token called Sand, and the market cap of it is about $2.2 billion. And since we're on the topic of valuations, there have been attempts to try to put a number to it of the total value of the metaverse and its different industries, and they peg it around $1 trillion. Now, before I dive into the sobering facts, if you're enjoying this video so far, hey, do me a favor and hit that like button because it helps YouTube share this video out with more people. Thanks. So, it's exciting, it's big and it's growing. What's the watch out for us as investors? Now, because there are so many different industries and players involved, it's actually almost impossible to just throw a dart and hope you have invested into one area that managed to ride this entire metaverse wave. Each individual thing really needs to be evaluated on its own merit. It's such early days in the space that it's almost impossible to know who will win out at the end of the day. Because it's almost like saying back in the 90s, hey, if you made a bet that maybe Alta Vista would be the winner of the internet, or maybe even GeoCities. Both of those names, if you're young enough, you probably never heard of. The next big watch out is that some of the valuations really do not make any sense to me. Now, on the surface, if you look at something like Decentraland's Mana, where the valuations are about $4.5 billion worth of value there, if you just dig one layer deeper and you ask yourself, what is the active user base? And I've tried and I've found a variation of numbers, but it's around 7,000 supposedly. And even if you're comfortably giving them 10,000 as the number, hey, it's kind of small. Now let's compare it to a game company such as ZeniMax Media, which owns multiple game studios, and one of my favorite, which is Bethesda Studios, and they've sold literally hundreds of millions of copies of their games over the years. But more importantly, all the intellectual property that they're sitting on is some of the best in the industry. And of course, you have great teams, great leadership, and all that jazz when it comes to the entire corporation. Everything was valued and bought by Microsoft for about 7.5 billion US dollars. Now you might say, that's too old-fashioned of a comparison. So let's look at Roblox then. It has a much higher valuation at about $62 billion, but underlying it is 43 million people daily. So you don't have to be a math genius to ask yourself, how on earth does Mana get valued at 4.5 billion on such a small base? The final watch out is that even growth itself comes along with its own challenges in this space. Some of the virtual worlds that are booming right now, especially in the crypto gaming space, have already expressed some of the challenges that they face. In the case of the crypto NFT game Axie Infinity, some of the in-game tokens have gone up so much in value that it's actually becoming a barrier for newer players to get in because it's becoming so expensive to start. Now, specific to the gaming world, even though there's so much hype around how the metaverse and the gaming worlds are really two peas in a pod, it's really not all rosy because there are quite a large group of gamers that do not like the idea of tokenization and monetization kind of invading their space. Recently, the CEO of the Discord platform hinted that they wanted to integrate a little bit of the crypto wallet system within the platform, and it got such a major pushback from the power users within the community, and that resulted in them halting or rather pausing the plans to consider moving this forward. And in many cases involving NFTs, there are still issues around, again, ownership rights and maybe even intellectual property theft. Now the point is that even though with all this growth behind it, there's still so many issues to sort out. From an investor standpoint, that just simply means more risk or probably more time involved in the whatever payout that you might be looking for. Now, in my final section, for those of you who are still keen or curious to invest, here are a few key considerations. A great place to start is really to learn about the many layers involved in the metaverse itself. There are really quite a lot of them, and like I said, there's a link below in the description from the work of John, and you should really check that out. Just remember that in a gold rush, many people just jump into the mine, but then there are a lot of people who are selling you shovels. Now, in your excitement about the space, you also need to ask yourself, are you an investor or are you a trader? Depending on your answer, the way you approach your analysis can be different as well. For example, like for me, I'm a long-term investor. So when I look at something like Mana at its current valuation, it just makes zero sense to me. But if you were a trader, maybe that's a different story. A good principle to remember for all forms of investing or trading is to ask yourself, what is your time horizon? The final thing I'll leave you with is a personal opinion. There's a lot of excitement about the different things in the metaverse, but to me, it actually all boils down to an engaged community. The promise is exciting and the technology itself is pretty amazing. But if people do not want to spend time within whatever that metaverse is, it is really just a lot of hot air. That's why I think a great starting point is to look at the existing digital communities that are already out there, and there are many. Whichever has an active and growing user base and has ambitions to kind of connect itself to this wider idea of the metaverse, they are probably worth keeping an eye on. What you want to watch for are some of the key themes which I mentioned earlier, that they are investing in giving power back to the community, giving them more ownership, having them kind of create more immersive worlds that they want to spend more time in, and ultimately being able to take the value that they've created and connect that value to other worlds as well. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you got value out of this, and if you did, I'd appreciate your support in clicking that like, sub and bell button, because I'll be back again next Sunday with a brand new video. And until then, you take care and keep playing your own game.